Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday to you, and welcome to another episode of Greg Balls of Fire. This is our little midweek mini pod that we do occasionally when we just have a couple of subjects to discuss. And in today's episode, we got a little bit to get into. We're going to talk a little bit about last night's Dynamite, recap that, talk a little bit about this past week's Monday Night Raw, recap that. We're also going to talk about John Cena's comments on Vince McMahon when he was asked about the Vince McMahon allegations on Howard Stern. We have a couple of other news tidbits to get into, a hiring in AEW, some behind-the-scenes news, a Austin Theory airport confrontation that I have not yet to see, but people are talking about it. And, of course, we are going to predict Saturday's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that will be emanating from Perth, Australia. And we do have a watch-along planned for that for me, which will technically be tomorrow night, really late, starting at 2 a.m., but if you're on the East Coast here in the States, that's a 5 a.m. start time. We are doing a watch along for Elimination Chamber. I'm staying up from 2 to 5 a.m. here in California, and I'm going to watch it live on YouTube. So make sure you join us on Friday/Saturday for that. The link is already up on my channel right now. So that is what we're going to be doing over the weekend, along with a fun WrestleMania watch along on Sunday. But today we have to predict Elimination Chamber, and I do want to talk a little bit about what I missed because this is my first time being up here on YouTube since Sunday when we did our watch along. I was out of town on Tuesday. It was Elizabeth's birthday on Monday. I worked my ass off at work yesterday. I have not had a chance to get back in the captain's chair here until today to really kind of get a hold on some wrestling news. And to make matters worse, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm coming up here a little bit early than the originally scheduled podcast because I had my schedule a little bit goofed up today. I was supposed to go live at 2:30, not 3 p.m. local time for me. And I forgot that I was supposed to change it until just like 5 minutes before. I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I go up earlier so we give ourselves enough time to talk about all this. So I'm sorry if I'm coming up here and a lot of you aren't expecting me to. So that's what happens with these types of episodes. Sometimes our audience isn't great because you don't have a whole lot of notice when I'm going to be here. But that's kind of what's on our menu today. We're going to talk about the Cena and Vince stuff. We'll talk about a couple of other news tidbits. I want to recap last night's Dynamite, talk about Raw, and predict Elimination Chamber, and probably look ahead to Revolution as well. As last night on Dynamite, I really liked what they set up with Sting. I loved that interview or that promo that him and Darby cut. Even the Ric Flair stuff is adding some question marks to all of this, and I think it's going to be a very, very special night in Greensboro in just about a week's time. So it is good to see everybody here on this Thursday afternoon. I am going to need some help on the likes and stuff because this is an odd time for me to be coming up. So any help you can give me on the likes, all that stuff would be appreciated. Make sure you subscribe. And welcome to Greg Balls of Fire. Where are we on? The 22nd, February 22nd, 2024. This should be a fun little episode here. I'm just going to cruise over here to the chat real quick, say hello to everybody, and then we will dive into our topics today. Good to see Jet the Hawk, Rodrigo. We also have Mohammed. We got Red Raven Rucker, Hurricane Perro. Good to see you. I'll be talking about Cena in a minute. Openigma, Alessandro, OTS Tribal Queen. We got JLW. Dude, y'all are failing to understand the big... JLW, I have not started speaking yet. So how can I fail to understand something that you haven't heard me talk about yet? Just chill. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge the title. I simply said what Cena said in his comments about Vince McMahon. Settle down. Everything's going to be fine. Nobody's failing to understand anything around here. Good to see Leo Whalen as well. Big J, Sonic Plays. We have Mike Rouse. Financial Truth Academy is here as well. And Spaz Phoenix dropping in 10. Hey, Greg and chat. Hope everyone is doing great. Coming off a rough week myself. Want to cheer me up, and I'd love some eyeballs on my Elimination Chamber and No Surrender previews. And NXT Rewind coming March 3rd on Revolution Day. So yes, please go show Spaz some love. Trekopedia is here as well. And we have our boy, Zach Goller. What's up, man? What's your hype level for Revolution? Do you feel like AEW has cooled off? I definitely, Zach, feel like they've cooled off to a degree, for sure. But I'm really interested in Revolution. I really think that's going to be a special night for Sting. I think AEW is going to set themselves up for one of their go-to looking back at moments, throughout history. And, 10, 15 years time, this is really going to look like a very special night in AEW's history and in Sting's history, because I fully believe, Sting, that this is it for him. I do not think there is any danger or fear of him coming back out of retirement or anything like that. I believe this is truly going to be it for him. And I feel like that's going to be the main event. So Revolution specifically, I'm hyped for, I'm jacked for, because I think the Sting thing is going to be special. If it weren't for the Sting match, then I don't know how much I would be hyped for Revolution, because I like the card. I think it looks great on paper and everything, but when you consider the cool down factor of AEW lately, some of the issues that they've been plagued with, maybe my excitement level wouldn't be as high for this one as it has been for previous AEW pay-per-views. But AEW, even when they're in the shitter, it feels like their pay-per-views always deliver. So pay-per-views aren't really their issue, but maybe the product as a whole is. So ask me again when we get to Double or Nothing. Who else we got? We got Bo Kavlovic in here as well. Nick Musser is here. David Brown, good to see you. Garrick Osborne, Cherokee George. We have Ben Espinoza, Brandon, right on. Mighty Nick, good to see you guys. JL, another sentence fragment. Didn't understand what that meant, but not sure what you're talking about. Fox Star Killer, appreciate 10 from you, my friend. Hello, all. Got the day off from work today, so got all the time in the world for this here show. I also just finished King of the Ring 99 in my Monday Night Wars viewing project. Nice. Did you see me? I was in the front row for that show, sitting next to Vlad in, ironically, Greensboro, North Carolina, which is exactly where Revolution is going to be in just about a week. All right, well, we need to start diving into things here because I'm on a little bit of a limited time schedule, but this isn't a super loaded podcast anyway, so I think we can get through this stuff in enough time. What I want to open up with, though, is a quick little programming note. I told you about the watch along for Elimination Chamber. We're going to be doing that live, so join us on YouTube for that. This coming Sunday, we're going to watch WrestleMania 8. I cannot believe we haven't done that one yet. I thought we had. I went through my watch along list. I'm like, I guess we haven't done it. So we're going to be doing WrestleMania 8 this coming Sunday. The link is already up on my channel for that, so please check it out and join us for another fun classic watch-along on Sunday. All right, so I think the thing we need to start with here first is the Vince McMahon stuff. Now, Vince McMahon was a guest on the Howard Stern show this week, and he was asked about how he handles the Vince McMahon allegations. We've heard in recent weeks, I think Seth Rollins, also recently Randy Orton, spoke about this as well, along with some thoughts and feelings on WWE Creative, CM Punk, and that sort of thing. And so far, I really had no issue with anything that Seth Rollins said or Randy Orton said, or too much of an issue from anybody that has said something about Vince so far. I think most wrestlers and talent and employees there, Bruce Pritchard, for example, who, just made one big statement. I can't talk about anything about the lawsuit or anything like that. But in terms of somebody just being point blank asked about their feelings on Vince McMahon and how they view him now personally, that's where we're going to get some of the differing answers. And John Cena, I think, really disappointed a lot of people yesterday when these comments came out, just because of the way he worded everything. And John Cena has always been just a little bit weird, that I think back to whatever happened there with China when he had to make that apology to them for saying something was a country when it's not. I forgot what the story was there. I'm trying to rack my brain, remember that. But he basically had to issue this really creepy looking apology. It almost looked like a hostage video. And that was when I started realizing that John Cena might be an alien. I wasn't completely sure what I was looking at there. And now you have these comments on Vince McMahon. And when you read them and then you think about John Cena, who we've known him to be recently, and some of the answers that he's given about things and his analytics and, his opinions and whatnot, what he said here, I guess, isn't even really that surprising, even though it was kind of gross and a little bit disappointing. So here's just a quick paraphrase of what John Cena said about Vince McMahon when asked about the allegations on the Howard Stern show. And I quote, "I don't think it's complicated to talk about. It's complicated to listen to. That's why I don't necessarily put a lot of time and equity into it. There's still a long way to go. I can say this. I'm a big advocate of love and friendship and honesty and communication. In the same breath, I'm also a big advocate of accountability." If someone's behavior lies so far outside your value system that the balance shifts of I can't operate in a world where this works, that's the end result of being accountable. Right now, I'm going to love the person I love, be their friend. I love you. You have a hill to climb. There is a saying of you don't know who your friends are until shit hits the fan or your back is against the wall. That doesn't make any of what's going on any easier to swallow. Just telling someone you love them, it's a hill to climb and we'll see what happens. That's that. It sounds so cliche, but it has to be one day at a time. I've openly said I love the guy. I have a great relationship with the guy, and that's that. It's largely my construct of operating with honesty and communication. Those are strong leads to handling any problem or achievement. The whole thing is super unfortunate and it sucks. It deals with an individual I love and an entity I love. I want everyone to have the experience that I have. Not only do I tell a friend that I love him, but I switch to the entity and say, how can I help? Well, you did not help with this, John Cena, at all. And without dissecting too much of this here, every time you've heard John Cena in any sort of an interview lately, he really seems to explain and dive into things with an extra sort of detail that just comes off sometimes is weird or strange, or it even makes you want to say, like, it ain't that deep type of thing. His whole entire Twitter profile is just inspirational quotes that somebody else is tweeting for him and everything. And he seems to have, in his fame and his travels and what he's been doing with his life to, he's kind of getting a little bit weird. I'm not going to lie. I've always liked John Cena. I had the dude's back for 10 years in terms of being on top of the WWE and, my defenses of him back then, I stand by all those. But now John Cena moving into Hollywood, moving into a after wrestling life, I wish the best for him. I always have, but it blows my mind, especially in the quote here where he talks about someone's behavior lying so far outside your value system. How the fuck is this not outside your value system? It's like, it's impossible to put yourself in these people's shoes. The best you can do or the best we can do is try to envision and imagine what it would be like for us if somebody that we loved very much was accused of these very same things. Put these very same accusations on your father, your stepfather, your best friend, your boss, your significant other. How would you react to it? And I think everybody kind of has different, different answers to that. And many people, you can say what you think you would do, but do you really know what you would do? If this was your father, obviously, this is very, very horrendous behavior. And I think a lot of people would have no problem saying, I don't give a shit if it's my dad, my grandpa, my mom, my best friend, whoever it is, you would be cut out of my life forever if you were accused of any of these things or convicted of any of these things or whatever the case may be. Where others, might be like, I can't, I'm not condoning it and I'm never going to agree with what he did, but I can't cut him out of my life type of thing. It just depends on the circumstance, depends on the situation. And the more and more wrestlers who are asked about Vince McMahon, wrestlers who really probably credit Vince McMahon as a major reason why they have the success and the lives that they've had. You're going to come across these wrestlers that owe an awful lot to Vince, or in their head think that they owe an awful lot to Vince. And then when they're asked about Vince McMahon, they might struggle to condemn him. And the way I look at it is I'm more disgusted and grossed out by Vince McMahon's behavior. This is what I want accountability for. This is what I want justice for the victims. Vince to be held accountable, whether it be criminal or civil or whatever. Just hold him accountable. He must be, punished for this if these are provable crimes and accusations and allegations and whatnot. That's what I want. I want justice and accountability, really is it at the end of the day. But I don't really care, I guess I should say, like what wrestlers say about him, because I can't consume my life with policing every single wrestler that gets asked about Vince McMahon to make sure they're saying the right thing for me. I don't really, at the end of the day, give a fuck about that. There's a lot of wrestlers, a lot of people associated with Vince McMahon that are going to be interviewed and going to be asked, and they're going to give all different kinds of answers. And a lot of it isn't going to be good. A lot of it is going to come across as they are just too hesitant for whatever reason to condemn the man, which I don't know why. At this point, Vince can't do anything to them. He can't do anything. It'd be one thing if you're like, oh, I don't want to risk my job or whatever. But fuck, Vince McMahon has got so many other problems right now. I would be really surprised if Vince McMahon is sitting there at home concerned about which segment is coming after the other on Monday Night Raw and stuff. I feel like he is, for the first time in his life, completely detached away from anything WWE on-screen product involved, which means no talent coming out and saying that, or condemning him or saying Vince McMahon is a piece of shit for what he did should have to worry about their job safety or anything like that. He can't hurt them. He can't touch them, So I feel like, just for your own reputation, if I was in a wrestler's shoes and I had a lot of time working under Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon paid me a very, very handsome sum of money for many, many, many years, and I'm asked about him, I personally would have no problem saying that was fucking gross. I'm disgusted by his behavior. I'm embarrassed by it. I'm embarrassed for him, the company, and everybody associated with it. And I hope that, justice is served and he's held accountable, and anybody here in this company that had anything to do with it is held accountable as well. That's what I would say. That's what a lot of you would say. But we also, never met Vince McMahon personally, shared a room with him, shared a plane with him, hotel room with him, threesome with him, dinner with him, whatever. So, those type of wrestlers or those type of people in Vince's lives that have had close relationships to him, I'm not going to sit here and be all that shocked that some of them might struggle to condemn him. Is it gross? Is it wishy-washy? Is it spineless? Yes. But it's also like, are you surprised? No, there are going to be people that are going to have this opinion. I'm not saying it's okay that John Cena has this feeling towards Vince. I think standing by Vince and trying to be his friend and tell him you love him right now is the last thing that anybody needs to do to Vince McMahon. But then again, this has nothing to do with me. I'm a fan. I'm on the outside looking in. I'm not in Cena's shoes. I'm not in anybody else's shoes. So even though I think it's ridiculous that John Cena wouldn't have the balls to actually, like John Cena, John Cena, who does not need to rely on Vince McMahon or the WWE for any more of his success moving forward. So from a personal business standpoint, making money standpoint, it wouldn't have harmed John Cena to be a little bit fucking honest about Vince McMahon unless he was being honest. And this might be exactly how he feels. He might be standing by his friend. When Vince McMahon first got outed, remember that wasn't he photographed or something or seen having dinner with John Cena, Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker? You don't think that The Undertaker, because we haven't heard any of The Undertaker's comments on this, I don't believe he's been interviewed. But I would have a feeling that The Undertaker would have very similar thoughts about Vince that John Cena does. And I think secretly, behind closed doors in private, Undertaker supports Vince McMahon. I'm sure he's told him that. I'm sure they've exchanged text messages and whatnot. And maybe, who knows, maybe Brock does too. And I don't think Cena is the only one that really feels this way about Vince McMahon, because a lot of Vince McMahon's behavior was pretty much understood by a lot of the roster and the talent for years, to the point where even we understood and knew about a lot of these things that went on. So even though I don't think John Cena's comments were good, I don't think they helped anything, especially not John Cena. And I think John Cena, of all people, should be a little bit more prepared in terms of, what the perception of him would be if he were to voice his support for Vince McMahon. John Cena's not dumb. If he went on the Howard Stern show, of all shows, Howard Stern will ask you about anything. There's nothing to hold back on there. So if there's one show that you're going to go on where you can be guaranteed to be asked something about the horrific allegations brought forth in that lawsuit against Vince McMahon, it would be Howard to ask it. So this might be John Cena's way of thinking he's giving a diplomatic response. He's not. This doesn't make him look anything but bad at all. But, at the same time, I didn't go on a day and a half long tweeting, tirade over this. I'm not going to police all these comments. Wrestlers are going to get asked about Vince, and some of them are going to say shit that's going to make you go, did you really say that? So be prepared. I think as fans, we need to be prepared for that. I think as fans, we need to be prepared to hear more of that. And I think you're going to hear more of that from people who had closer relationships with Vince, worked with him back in the day, older wrestlers, old timers even, or people that maybe had more personal experiences with Vince, where the newer generation, your Seth Rollinses and your Kevin Owens and whatnot, yeah, they had plenty of interactions with Vince, but maybe not quite as close with him as it would have been maybe in like Attitude Era and even before that, when Vince was even more kind of involved. And then as WWE grew and the business grew and the corporation grew, Vince's hands-on with every single piece of talent became less and less. So I think now, if you were to ask NXT talent, they wouldn't be shy at all about how they feel about Vince McMahon, because they don't really know the guy or had any sort of a loyalty or love already embedded in them. So with John Cena's comments, a lot of people were tweeting me yesterday, what do you think about it? And I'm like, I think it's gross, but at the same time, I'm not even totally shocked that this is what John Cena said. This kind of feels like something that John Cena would normally say. So I don't know what to make of it other than that, and I think we should keep our eyes open for more wrestlers that get directly asked about this, and I think there are going to be some that are going to have responses that are going to make you reconsider whether or not you are going to be a fan of that person. So me, like I said, I'm more interested in condemning and seeing accountability for Vince. Even though you might be turned off and grossed out by the comments somebody makes about Vince by saying, I still love him and I'm going to support him, that's not a crime. What Vince did was a crime. Struggling with your inner emotions about how you're supposed to handle commenting on allegations of someone that you were once close with, that's not a crime. That's something that they're just going to have to personally struggle with internally, individually. So, and it's not, I'm not the interview police. I can't run around just freaking out over everything everybody says. John Cena should have known better. I think he's a little bit stupid to have that response maybe even prepared in his head and thinking that was going to make him look good somehow. And he was going to try to be as fair as possible without, just ruffling any Vince feathers, but still keeping himself in the good graces of the audience. There's really only one response, and that is, I'm fucking disgusted with the guy, and I don't want anything to do with him. So I feel like aside from that, anything else, if you start dancing around stuff and taking, a 5-mile long journey to go 10 feet, which is what John Cena did here, that's when you can make yourself look a little bit bad. So we will see who else in the future comes out and says something idiotic about how they feel about Vince McMahon. So far, John Cena has had one of the worst responses of anybody. And so far, I've liked Seth Rollins and Randy Orton, basically what they've said so far. So we'll see how more of that goes. It's a mess. I don't really think, though, that this makes, John Cena a bad guy or anything like that. I just think it makes Cena, very flawed. And that's about it. But I just want accountability for Vince, and I want justice for the victims. The wrestlers saying weird shit, it's just not going to be that high on my priority list to get uppity about that. But whenever we hear something come out that's a little bit eyebrow raising, we will definitely talk about it here on the podcast. There is a WrestleVotes tweet that came out today. I just wanted to mention. Here's what they tweeted out. Sources within WWE indicate that there is interest in collaborating with Sylvester Stallone for WrestleMania in some form. While any communication status is unclear, I'm told there's hope for it. Whether it ultimately ends up happening or not is to be determined. Stallone, born in New York City, gained fame through the iconic Rocky films, deeply associated with Philadelphia. So having Sylvester Stallone come in for WrestleMania in some capacity, I think would be fine. Rocky, Philadelphia. He was there in 2005 or 6 or whatever year Hulk Hogan went into the Hall of Fame. He inducted him into the Hall of Fame. So he's already done something with WWE before. He's worked with Hulk Hogan in the Rocky movie, and that movie actually ended the relationship between Hogan and Vince Sr. and, really paved the way for Vince Jr. and Hulk to come together several years later. So Rocky being a part of WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, Sylvester Stallone being a part of WrestleMania, I'm fine with it as long as he's not doing a run-in the main event and costing Cody the match or something. Then I don't really give a shit. So have him come out there, make an appearance, do something. Sure, I'm all for that. WrestleVotes is usually pretty credible, although they were kind of had something going on Monday where they claimed that the internal plan was for Jey Uso to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title on Raw, and then they changed things last minute. But even before Raw, the week prior here on the show, I was saying that Jey Uso was not going to beat Gunther for the title. It's probably going to be Jimmy Uso coming out and screwing Jey and setting up their WrestleMania match. That's just what it felt like to me, and it turns out that is probably what the case was, as that turned out to be the finish on Monday night. But a lot of people have been talking about it might be WWE disinforming, putting out disinformation, to see where the leaks are and whatnot. But I don't think too many fans really thought that Jey had a chance to win the title. I never did. I thought it was going to be Jey and Jimmy the whole time at WrestleMania, and Gunther will have yet another big title defense on the show for his IC title. I want to take a little bit of a chat. I was going to say take a little bit of a look, but we do want to look back at last night's Dynamite a little bit, because I thought it was an interesting show. It was promo heavy, but it also had some decent matches on there. And like I said, it's setting up Revolution really nicely. The opener was a tag team time limit draw. You don't see a ton of those, with Mox and Claudio going to a draw with FTR. That was a really good match. They had a big brawl after and all of that, so that was fun. Orange Cassidy, banged up Orange Cassidy, who was barely cleared for this match, took on and defeated Mike Bennett. We had Roderick Strong and Matt Taven attacking OC after the match, and that's when Jake Hager came out to make the save to a huge ovation. Now, Dynamite was in Oklahoma last night, so that is hometown boy stuff for Hager. He comes out to make the save, and then Excalibur immediately announces that Tony Khan informed him that Roderick Strong will be taking on Jake Hager on Rampage on Friday, and even went as far to immediately flash the graphics. So I don't know what that meant, if that was like an impromptu return for Hager, and then they made the match, or they already knew the match was in place, and then he came out and ran out anyway. I don't know. It was pretty funny how Excalibur got the word from Tony Khan, announced it to the fans, and they posted the graphic all within 10 seconds. Way to go, AEW. One of my favorite parts of the show was when Ric Flair showed up. Ric Flair showed up in an Escalade, and he came out, and he's interviewed by Renee Paquette, excuse me. And he's kind of somber, he's kind of got this like somber tone, and he seems a little bit peeved that he has not been involved as much as he'd like with the Sting retirement. And he said that, when I signed on to be a part of this, I thought I was going to be involved a lot more, and I think it's time to explore more options. And then he walks away and knocks on a dressing room door that turns out to be the Young Bucks door. They open it up and let him in. So what's funny about that is, when you think about Ric Flair, making a stink about Becky Lynch using the man gimmick and all the other things he's done, always needing his cut, always needing his piece, always wanting to be involved and get money and whatever. He's always so fucking hard up for attention and money and everything. This felt like it could have been a worked type of shoot thing with him. Like, he might be legitimately annoyed that he hasn't been involved as much, or Tony Khan and AEW brought him in, but then, he wasn't on TV as much as he would like. And now he's, irritated. He could maybe turn on Sting or whatnot at Revolution. If I had to guess, because it is Sting's final match, unless they plan on signing and bringing in Ric Flair full time to be the manager of the Young Bucks or something like that, I feel like this might be Flair because Sting got attacked last week along with the Sons, and maybe this is Flair stepping up for Sting, and they're going to infiltrate the Bucks. So Flair's pretending that he's annoyed. He's going to try to earn the trust of the Bucks, only to play a role in them getting or them losing at Revolution. I feel like that's more of an option than him actually siding with the Bucks, because if Sting wasn't retiring, then I would be like, okay, Flair managing the Bucks, that actually might not suck. But anything involving Flair sucks. But I feel like since it's Sting's last match, Flair needs to be in there at the celebration in the end. And like I said, I'm kind of hoping that Sting gets a Ric Flair style celebration to close Revolution, just like Ric Flair got on Monday Night Raw the night after WrestleMania 24. If they were to give him something like that, because it will be the main event most likely, I think that would be really special. And I feel like Flair would have to be a part of that in terms of, the celebration with Sting, not against him. So we will see, but I do like that they are adding a little bit of an unpredictability element here and doing something with Flair that I did not think that they were going to do. So we'll keep our eye on that. Daniel Garcia, listen to this. He's out there for an interview. He had the match with Adam Copeland last week that was ended, I think, in a no contest, and then they did a concerto spot on Copeland, seemingly to write him off TV. I thought that was a way to set up another Christian and Copeland match at Revolution. Excuse me, but apparently they are going to hold off on that, and it is going to be Daniel Garcia after all to get the title shot, and I like that a lot. So Tony Schiavone is in the ring interviewing Daniel Garcia. And that's when it is announced that he is officially going to be challenging Christian for the TNT Championship at Revolution, which I actually like. The TNT title should be a belt that's used to get, and elevate guys. And Christian's had it for a while. Copeland won it at World's End. And Daniel Garcia is the perfect person to hold this title. So I'm kind of hoping that Adam Copeland shows up at Revolution and helps Garcia win. That would be pretty cool. So Garcia then goes on to cut a promo of his own and talks about the battle with losing and regaining his confidence, and thank the fans for being a huge part of why that confidence has returned to him. And that's when Christian comes out with the family. He's got Nick Wayne and Mama Wayne and Kill Switch is out there. And he says that Daniel Garcia is not ready. He's not going to face him at Revolution because, quite frankly, Daniel Garcia is just not ready. And then says, you kind of had a dark childhood, didn't you? And then, the oohs and ahs, and you knew exactly where this was headed. And he mentioned Jackie Garcia and David Garcia, and he lists, and he says a specific address in Buffalo, New York. And if you Google Maps the address, it's the address to a cemetery where apparently his father, David Garcia, is laid to rest because he was a loser alcoholic who lost his life to the bottle, according to Christian. And Christian then sends Nick Wayne down to attack Garcia, but Garcia takes him down right away, puts him in the sharpshooter. Then Kill Switch comes down to try to get involved, and that's when Daddy Magic comes out to make the save and stand by his buddy Daniel Garcia, and they fend off Christian and company. So another one of these tremendously wonderful promos from Christian where he just does what Christian does, and I love it. I'm not even close to tired of it. I think it's awesome when you know where he's about to go, and he kind of prefaces it with some certain line where he talks about his childhood or a dark moment, and that's when it usually lets the fans know something big is about to come out of Christian's mouth involving his opponent's father. So this was another good one, and the way this is set up, and since Adam Copeland is kind of off TV, this is in Greensboro, where Adam Copeland lives not far away from. So I feel like Copeland showing up and helping Garcia win the TNT title is what I want to see. That should be our title change on this show. Samoa Joe's going to keep his belt. I think the title change we need to see is Garcia winning the TNT title. This title is tailor-made for talents like Garcia. This is who this belt, these are the type of guys that this belt should be around the waist of. So I see that as a very big possibility. Copeland costing Christian the title, which then sets up your big Copeland and Christian blow-off either on a TV show, maybe Big Business. Well, probably not, because that's just right after. Isn't Big Business the week after Dynamite? Or I'm sorry, the week after Revolution, just a few days after? Could be a week after. So probably not Big Business, but maybe Double or Nothing in Vegas. We will get that blow off finally, and Daniel Garcia can be TNT champion for a while. I would really like that. The women had some presence on the show as well. We had Toni Storm out there defeating an enhancement talent. She, of course, is going to be defending her championship against Deonna Purrazzo at Revolution. And this was cool because they had the two women's matches back to back. So Toni Storm won her match, and as she's leaving, Deonna Purrazzo was coming out for her match. And they show the entranceway with both women in the entranceway, and it was like a split screen of Toni Storm in black and white and Deonna Purrazzo in color. And it was really well done, really cool looking production effect there, which I loved. And then Deonna Purrazzo would then go on to defeat Madison Rayne. And there was a really scary kind of like flatliner spot where she tried to hit her with, I think it's a flatliner, and for some reason, Madison kind of tucked her head. She came straight down on top of her head, and it was really, really sick looking. Somehow she was okay. Apparently, word is she is all right. They did continue the match after a brief stoppage, but that was a scary spot. In the end, of course, Deonna Purrazzo got the victory there, and Toni Storm came back out to attack her after the match, and that should be a real fun one, I think, at Revolution. AEW is doing better with the women. I did not write down her name, son of a bitch. I'm so sorry. The big hire. AEW's new big hire. What is her name? She just came over from WWE. Jennifer Pepperman, that's who it is. So Jennifer Pepperman, or Jen Pepperman, excuse me, has been hired by AEW as Vice President of Content Development. She, I guess, had a career in the soap opera world. She previously worked on As the World Turns and One Life to Live. She has won 3 Daytime Emmy Awards throughout her career, which is crazy. And she is coming over from WWE, and she did work a lot with the women there. Now, AEW announced this in a press release. It says, adding Jennifer Pepperman's brilliant mind to the AEW team opens the door for exciting new ideas and will help us build upon the incredible stories currently developing on the road to Revolution across our 3 weekly shows on TBS and TNT. And the effects of Jennifer's arrival in AEW will be felt for many years in the future. These were comments from Tony Khan. He went on to say that we're thrilled to welcome her today, and I look forward to her creativity and collaboration with our team across the board on what will be AEW's biggest year yet and beyond. And like I said, she did recently leave WWE to jump to AEW. And I also think that her being there around this and coming in around the same time that Mercedes Moné is no accident either. And maybe she can really help. You need somebody there to really work with the women and help the women's division. They have made improvements, but there can still be more. Mercedes coming in, some hires, working out, TV time a little bit better and whatnot. We're seeing it. It's slow. It's like snail's pace, but we have seen improvement in the women's division from where it's been in the past. I feel like still it could go a little bit faster, and there's still some things that I think, a light bulb needs to go off in Tony Khan's head every now and then, and he needs to realize some things that are painfully obvious to all of us. But still, even though it's going a little slower than I would like personally as a fan, it's moving, and it's moving in the right direction. And hopefully this new hire will help and will continue the improvement in the women's division. And like I said, I think Storm and Purrazzo are going to have themselves one at Revolution. Looking forward to that. By the way, we will be here for AEW Revolution, which I believe will be 1 week from this Sunday, right? And we will be doing a live reaction to that. So join us next Sunday for that one. Then we go to a pre-tape. I love this. Pre-tape from Darby Allin and Sting. This was great. Of course, last week, Sting and Darby Allin, or when they won the titles, they were beaten up from behind by the Bucks with bats, blood all over them. And Sting's sons were there as well. Both of his sons, who looked just fucking like him, which is creepy, they were attacked as well. They were beat up by the Young Bucks, and Darby and Sting were now cutting this pre-tape promo, and Darby... Both men are, pretty subdued, in their demeanors. And Darby asks Sting for his permission to show a couple of photos on camera. And he shows a couple of pictures of Sting and his sons. And Sting, when they were kids, and Sting was in his NWO Wolfpack paint. So we're probably talking 98. And he shows the kids, and he says that, they're the same age that the Bucks kids are right now. And then Sting kind of comes into frame, and it's just his face. It was so good. It was so good. And he's got this very intense, not crazy and aggressive and over the top, just intense, deliberate look on his face. Excuse me. And he talked about how he's recently suffered a loss himself. Just 7 days ago, Sting's father passed away. I'm happy that Sting was able to have his father into his 60s. I think that's great. Sting's father passed away, and when you combine that with what the Bucks did to Sting's kids, and Sting said he's going to take, this is his last match, and he's going to take every single thing that he has left to Revolution, and warns the Bucks that they have the fight of their lives on their hands. And I like this story. This is perfect for the South. This is perfect for Greensboro. I wish I could be there. in an arena that I've been many times for a lot of pay-per-views and a lot of wrestling events. It is a fun arena. North Carolina is the best for that stuff. I might give my former home for shit sometimes for some of the dumb shit they do politically and whatnot. But in terms of being there in the mix, going to shows in North Carolina, being a wrestling fan there, it's a different place. And I think all of this is really going to set up a special main event moment here for Sting and Darby Allin. And the more heat they can pile on to the Bucks, the more I think it's likely that Sting and Darby are going to retire, or Sting is going to retire undefeated and as AEW World Tag Team Champion, and they will not be dropping the belts to the Bucks. But I'm hoping it's a roller coaster ride. I'm hoping there's, maybe a couple of swerves or something that really makes you think that the Bucks are going to, have to run out of the building with beer bottles being thrown at them and pitchforks and all that stuff. But, in the end, Sting and Darby Allin can win. I really hope it's a special moment. I think to Ric Flair's send-off in 2008, even to a degree, the send-off that we thought we were getting with The Undertaker in 2017 at WrestleMania 33, just that taking off of the gloves and the hat. I suppose Sting in that way could lose. They could still do the send-off and have Sting and Darby lose. But unlike the Undertaker match, this isn't a match of respect. There's a lot of bad blood, heat, family stuff, kids being attacked type of shit. The match with Taker and Roman was more of a match of respect, where this match is not. So, if Sting were to lose to the Bucks, they're probably going to cheat and do all of that. And then how can he stand there and just accept it and, take his shirt off or take whatever he needs to take off and lay it in the ring and do a symbolic goodbye and walk from the ring? That's not the send off I see Sting having. They are in Greensboro, and I think they're going to bring some people in. I do. I think they should do it very similar to what they did with Ric Flair. And if they can get the Rock and Roll and some Steiners and Lex Luger and anybody else that had any association with Sting or the NWA or that time period, and they can bring them out after the match, and it's a big celebration. They're celebrating Sting. He's got the belt. They're all clapping. Darby's just sitting on one of the turnbuckle pads on the top rope, just kind of watching it and taking it all in and letting Sting have his moment. The entire crowd of Greensboro audience, not one person has left the arena. They're all standing there appreciating it. As a wrestling fan who's, going to be 47 years old this year, that's what I want to see. That would just, be heartwarming to see that. So I kind of am hoping for that type of conclusion to Revolution. And I think the more and more heat they're building up, the more and more it really feels like that. And I think the Ric Flair stuff might just be a little bit of swerve or a tease to make the fans think, oh, Flair's going to turn on Sting because he's already done that 24 fucking times in his career. I think that's just a little bit of a red herring, and maybe Flair is also offended by what happened to Sting's son, so he's going to come in and pretend to be disgruntled, pretend that he's mad that he's not involved enough, earn the trust of the Bucks, and then screw him because he's the dirtiest player in the game. That, I'm kind of hoping, is what they do, and we will see how that turns out. But we have about 10 days left or so of Sting's in-ring wrestling career. And the last time that Sting was not a wrestler, I was only 6 years old or something. So it's fucking crazy how long he's been doing it, and I wish him the best. I did see the story about Kevin Nash wanting to be a part of this, or Sting requesting Nash to be a part of it, but WWE won't let him because of his Legends contract. And that's just another example where I just wish these, two competing organizations could just get along on some degree to where, little concessions could be made. And I know that they have done that before, right? Because they let Billy Gunn be a part of the Hall of Fame. AEW did, but and I know we've had a little bit of crossover, Jericho on the Broken Skull sessions, but Nash is like BFFs with Triple H. He's a Click member. How does he not have enough pull to get himself that approval, or to be allowed just to, I don't know, sit in the crowd? Maybe not necessarily being in the ring or being on camera or have a microphone in his hand or anything like that, but maybe just in the crowd. What would be so wrong with that? And I think that just sucks. That's just one part of this that kind of sucks when you do have, two promotions that maybe aren't on good terms, or whatever. It's harder to get these little, things done in terms of cooperation. But how in the world could it possibly harm WWE in any way to let Nash be a part of this? I don't get it. So I'm just really surprised that Nash, I know Triple H doesn't like run the company. He's just the head of creative, but I feel like Triple H would be able to pull some strings, like whoever he needs to talk to, Nick Khan or whoever the person that would make this call. Hey, can we just let Nash do this? You know, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll vouch for him, or I don't know, whatever. The fact that a Click member can't get this approved is kind of disappointing, you know, to me. I just wish the two would get along so we could see, you know, a little bit of occasional cooperation. And when I say cooperation, I'm not talking about like joint cards. I'm talking about stuff like this. You know, just let Billy be a part of the DX reunion, or Nash be a part of Sting's thing, or whatever, little things like that. I don't understand how that would be harmful to either company, as long as it's, you know, a minor situation where Nash would just be there, be in the background, be one of the people there celebrating with Sting. What's the harm, you know? Last week on Dynamite, we had Darby Allin kind of dropping the Cody reference, which got a lot of chatter and debate online. Last night, Wardlow came out to the ring pissed off. It took him about 2.5 years to get pissed off, but he's finally pissed off. He's very angry, comes to the ring, storms down to the ring, cuts a promo, talks about how at one time he was cheered like crazy. He was the next big thing in the company. And then next thing you know, he was hammered into the ground and completely buried and screwed. And you would have thought someone like him, a homegrown star, a homegrown talent, would have been champion a long time ago. But no, for whatever reason, his momentum was crushed and he was taken off of TV. He was put in the background, back burner, and other people way less capable than him have been getting opportunities, and he's sick of it. He talked about CM, well, he didn't say CM Punk by name, but he did reference CM Punk by calling him the best in the world, the real world's champion. He said his body is still falling apart, and it's all because of the beating that Wardlow laid on him. So he was taking credit for CM Punk's injury right now in WWE. So that's 2 weeks in a row that AEW has kind of drawn attention to their competition. Maybe this week was a little bit more subtle because Wardlow didn't seem like the crowd understood what he was saying. They didn't gasp. But Darby, it felt like the crowd knew who Darby was talking about. I'm not sure if Oklahoma even understood what Wardlow was saying, but the fans at home did. And the reference to CM Punk there is another promo that I don't really have a problem with. Like last week, I understand, like when people said Darby Allin referencing Cody, all that did was start Cody chants. That all that did was start fans chanting the name of the top babyface in the other company. Yeah, I totally get that. It's a little weird, you know, for them to want to do that. But as a fan, I kind of like it. I like any sort of mention back and forth. I don't really dissect it too much, but the fans who say that aren't wrong. You know, you're not wrong at all. And if you want to have the same opinion about Wardlow here and what he said about CM Punk, you're not wrong on this either. I just really don't mind if you bring up people that have, you know, that are part of this story or you've had history with before. And in this case, you know, Wardlow, you know, can make a claim to that because of his history with CM Punk, you know, everything that went on there with the, you know, MJF feud and whatnot. So I didn't really have a problem with that because he didn't really focus too heavy on it. He moved on to the next guy, you know, and talked about MJF and how he squashed him like a bug and how nobody can stop him, and basically just puts everybody on notice. And that's good because I like this side of Wardlow so far. The Undisputed Kingdom has really felt like a flop so far. Not that they can't rebound or get better and improve, but so far it feels just a little bit of uninspiring letdown to me so far. Maybe that'll change when Cole gets healthy and maybe Kyle O'Reilly comes back and, you know, and Wardlow can gain some momentum here with this new attitude. There's still hope. I'm not giving up on him, but so far I'm not totally feeling it. So we'll see Wardlow, if he's going to be maybe the next in line after Revolution, because they seem to be really going hard with this. So here's another example of Wardlow's coming out and aggressively making his intent known on TV. You've put yourself in a position now where you have to follow through on that. Otherwise, you're going to fuck his momentum again. And I kind of think, and I'm worried that they did so much damage to him already, he might not be savable. So I'm hoping that he is. Maybe this is the beginning of that redemption. We had an interesting main event on Dynamite last night. 6-man. It's Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe. Opponents teaming up with Brian Cage to take on Hangman Page, RVD, and Hook. So very interesting match here. Lots of fun all over the place, table bumps, whatnot. Samoa Joe chokes out RVD for the win. Prior to that, he hits Hangman Page with a muscle buster. He's going for a muscle buster, and I think Page gets out of it, and he kind of stumbles and appears to tweak his knee or his ankle. And after the match, you see the cameraman go over to Hangman Page, and as soon as they start shooting him, he's telling them to go away. Just go away, go away, go away. And a lot of fans thought that Hangman might have gotten hurt last night. He didn't want the camera to shoot him, selling the leg or the ankle or whatever. So I didn't see Dynamite live last night, so I'm not sure if I would have bought into it or not, if I would have seen it. But if you watch it back, you do see him wait. The camera, they're on the hard cam, and you can see the camera next to him across the ring, and he's not saying anything. It's not until that red light goes on that he tells them to go away. So Fightful Select had a report on this today that basically said he was fine. And there's a quote from one of the talents who said, yeah, he's okay. He's just good at his job. So basically he was just selling. Brian Alvarez today on Wrestling Observer Live elaborated on this as well, saying this, quote, a Hangman is not hurt. He worked an ankle injury, and the reason that he worked the ankle injury is because he has something going on in his personal life, and he may not be able to work the pay-per-view. If he can't work the pay-per-view, then this is the cover story as to why he can't be there. So he injured his ankle. Virtually nobody knew about it, and I don't know if even the people in the match knew that he was going to do this. There were people very close to Hangman who even this morning didn't know what was going on. I presume that him and Tony talked about it, but I can't tell you that for sure. The point of the story is he's okay. He may work the pay-per-view, he may not, and I don't know if we're going to know whether he's going to work the pay-per-view or not until maybe last minute. I don't know what the personal issues are, but they are there, and that's what's going on. So according to Alvarez, there might be something going on in Hangman's personal life, and that's his business, not ours. I hope everything is okay, whatever that is. But if it's something that he's not sure if he can be at the show or not, I wonder if he might have a terminally ill family member or something like that, and things are sketchy or touch and go. I don't know what other type of situation or scenario would, if you're not injured anyway, that would make you uncertain if you're going to be there or not. So whatever's going on, I really wish Hangman the best. I hope everything's okay there. I'm really loving this new heel character of his, and how his obsession with Swerve not being champion is almost as fun as Swerve's quest to be champion. And those are really good things to kind of butt heads. And I don't think it's really going to be Swerve's time. I'm not putting the belt on Swerve at Revolution. I'm saving that for Double or Nothing, even All In if you wanted to do it in late summer, or we still have Forbidden Door. But it's not going to be Revolution. I feel like, especially if the tag match is going to be the main event, why are you going to have that have a title change on the mid card? You wouldn't do that. But whatever the case is, all the best to Hangman Page. Now we need to kind of pivot a minute and go back to WWE, because we have to predict this Elimination Chamber. But this past week on Raw, we saw a pretty good one. I was not here to see the show, and we're not going to recap the whole thing, but I just want to mention a couple of things. One of them, the opening match between Drew and Cody Rhodes, I really liked, and that was when the Bloodline interrupted. We had Jimmy Uso interfering first, and then Cody has got McIntyre in Crossroads position, and they redo the WrestleMania 39 finish with Solo Sikoa showing up in a hoodie, spiking Cody Rhodes. He then eats a Claymore, and Drew pins Cody. Is this Cody's first TV pin? Help me out in the chat. I'm not sure. I can't recall too many times that he's been pinned 1, 2, 3 in the ring at all in WWE since he's been back, much less on TV. So big win for McIntyre there. I love the way they set that up. And the story is this new bloodline isn't going to even allow Cody Rhodes to make it to WrestleMania. So I like that. We had the returning Raquel Rodriguez showing up. She won that second chance battle royal to enter the Elimination Chamber for the women. So she's the final entrant for the women's match. There was some talk about Jade being a part of this as well, but apparently some creative may or may not have been changed as it relates to Jade. We did see her on SmackDown briefly. I speculated that she might show up on Raw. And Pierce might give her a spot in the chamber as a way to convince her to sign, because her and Braun Breaker both spoke to Aldis on Friday, but only Breaker was announced as signing. So Jade is kind of still up in the air, but doesn't look like she's going to be a part of this chamber. I thought maybe she would enter last minute, and maybe her and Bianca would cancel each other out. Why put her in the chamber if she's not going to win? I agree, but maybe with Bianca in there, they could have used that to set up their Mania match. The Mania match might not even happen now, or it happens, or it's set up down the line, maybe an interim promotional type of thing. If Pierce gets his hands on Jade, maybe, Aldis and Pierce make a match between Jade and Bianca as an attraction match at the show, something like that. I'm not sure yet. Or maybe we're still going to hold off on Jade on the main roster in the ring until after WrestleMania. That's also a possibility. And like I talked about earlier in the main event, Gunther did defeat Jey Uso to retain the Intercontinental title. I did not think Jey Uso was going to win, but I was expecting a really fun main event. And I was definitely expecting Jimmy Uso to interfere, because that has been the plan to be the Mania match for the past several months, and we saw the big showdown at the Rumble. Felt like this was the perfect opportunity for Jimmy to show up, cost Jay the match, and set up the match now at WrestleMania. And now Gunther still has to have a new opponent at WrestleMania. Apparently, he was working with Chad Gable at some recent live events. Oh man, fingers crossed, guys. Just give it to Gable. That's what I wanted all along, but then with the Brock stuff and, Gunther seemingly going to face him, that falling through, then maybe being a part of the World Heavyweight title match, that falling through, give it to Gable. Do Gunther, Gable at Mania and give us a great Intercontinental title change at WrestleMania, something we haven't seen in a while. They can rival Savage and Steamboat here if done right, and that's what I would do. Please, WWE. You got to do that. But first, Gable's got, that Alpha Academy stuff. I don't know. Maybe he's got to get away from that and get a little bit more serious, but I would love to see Gable and Gunther for the championship. And that leaves us with the Elimination Chamber. Let's predict this. Then I'll go back over here and answer some super chats and check out what you guys are saying in the chat. Before we get into this, if you could do me a favor, those who have not, that thumbs up button right there, give that a smash for me. I would appreciate it. And if you are not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button and help this channel get to 50,000 subscribers. Would like to do that by like summertime or something. So I need y'all's help. Hook us up. Let's predict the Elimination Chamber. I purposely didn't write down any winners. I was going to kind of wing this in my head. I kind of know who I'm going to pick in most of these, but I thought I would just wing this for the most part, because we're only looking at a 4-match card. I feel like this show is going to be 3 hours and no longer than that, which is why I figured it would be an easy watch along to do late night for me. I got to stay up from 2 to 5 a.m., which is not that difficult for me. I can't wait to see what kind of an audience we're going to have on late Friday night, early Saturday morning. So make sure you join us. The link is already up on the channel for the Chamber. Here's what we got. Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. I would love for this to be the main event just for Ripley's sake, but I don't think it's going to be. I would open with it. I think it would be fun to open with it. I do, but I feel like since there's 2 chamber matches, I feel like they got to bookend the thing. So I feel like Ripley and Nia Jax will probably be match 2 or right before the men's chamber main event. I assume, not really sure where they're going to put this match. Either way, what I like about it is that, number one, we know Rhea Ripley is going to retain the title. She just is. But WWE's also done a good job of making this match interesting. It's not just going to be a throwaway match. Yes, we expect Ripley to win, but they've done a great job of building up Nia Jax. Their use of Nia Jax has been tremendous since she's come back. I didn't want anything to do with her in the WWE when they brought her back. I'm like, oh, fuck me. But they just used her better. She was just immediately put over. She wasn't even like annoying to have out there and stuff. I liked some of her matches. She was getting some big victories there too and doing great work. And now I'm like, okay, I've completely changed my tune on Nia Jax. She is welcome in my wrestling universe anytime, as long as she's used like this. And I still think this match is going to be a lot of fun. And Nia Jax is going to do the honors here for Ripley in front of her homeland. And it's going to be awesome. So Ripley all the way here over Nia Jax. But I think Nia Jax is going to make this match good. That's what she should do. Really let it all hang out. We have The tag team titles on the line, Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor defending against Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. Kind of a tough one here. I don't feel like Judgment Day is going to drop the belts here. But if they did, it would open up Priest for perhaps a cash-in at WrestleMania. But I also think you could have Priest and Balor drop the titles at WrestleMania and still work a cash-in there for Priest. Kind of a loss-win type of night for him. Maybe a loss on night one, a win on night two, or a loss and a win on the same night. Something like that is what I feel like they could be setting up here for Priest and Balor, especially if they like start building up some dissension within Judgment Day leading up to Mania. Then they drop the belts, then they implode backstage, and then Priest goes on to win the title later. And then on Raw, they try to get back with him. He's like, no, we broke up. We were not on a break. We legitimately broke up. Get out of here. I'm on my own now. I don't know, something like that. So Priest and Balor dropping the belts here. No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Judgment Day will retain. If Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate won, that would be great. I think the Perth crowd would love that, but I don't know. It just feels off to me if they were to win the tag team titles. I'm all for them winning the tag team titles, but maybe build this issue a little more. I think the only reason they're getting the shot is because they won the Fatal 4-Way tournament thing that they did or whatever. So I don't know, just not feeling it. So I'm going to have the champs to retain in that one. We should talk about Cody and Seth Rollins on the Grayson Waller effect. They're going to Perth just to be on this show. There's a lot of speculation that Rock and Roman will be there too, and there might be some big epic fucking face-off on the Grayson Waller effect. If they did that, and that's where we had the challenge laid down for the tag team match at WrestleMania, I think that would be great. I think that would be great if they did that. I speculated when we first heard about this segment that what I thought was going to happen is that Rock and Roman were not going to be there. We would have Rollins and Cody on the Grayson Waller effect, and then I felt like Jimmy, Uso, and Solo would attack them. They would turn the tables on them, run them off. Then Cody gets on the mic and says, that's the best you lazy pieces of shit can do. Send your goons, your yes men after us and try to attack us while you sit on your asses, in your comfortable house. How about this? How about the two of you face the two of us at WrestleMania and then Cody lays down the challenge or something like that. But now that Jimmy has already kind of solidified his thing with Jay, maybe Jimmy isn't a part of this and maybe you do have Roman and Rock there and we do get some epic face-off where the challenge is laid down for WrestleMania and accepted. So if we're going to get the tag team match that a lot of fans felt was teased in the WrestleMania teaser, some feel like it's not going to happen. There are some questions there how it would be doable considering Seth is kind of injured and he's the champion and he's already going to have to face the winner of the Chamber. So he's going to have to do double duty. Cody's going to have to do double duty. Roman's going to have to do double duty. Everybody but The Rock would have to do double duty seemingly if that match was made. So does that mean Seth drops the title before then? Does he go into that match champ? How does it work? I speculated, I think last week, that maybe Cody and Seth lose the tag. And then Seth loses the title and then says, Cody, if I wouldn't have teamed up with you, I would still have my title. You owe me a title shot. Something like that. There's a million different ways you could do it. But if we are going to get that tag match, I feel like this is where it's going to be announced or at least challenged for. So there's definitely going to be more to just Seth and Cody on the Grayson Waller effect and the two of them being there and not doing anything, unless the intent is for them to come out there and lay down that challenge. Unless that's all they do. Waller's there. Maybe Theory is out there too. We know he's in Australia. He got into it with some reporter today in the airport who asked him if wrestling is fake. I didn't even get a chance to look at it yet or not. Not sure if it's kayfabe or staged or whatever. I don't even know. I'll look at it later. But Theory is there, so I could see him being in the ring, and he's going to mouth off, and, it's going to be Cody and Seth maybe beating up Waller and Theory, and maybe it just ends there, and that's when they get on the mic and lay down some sort of a challenge. Or are they going to surprise the Perth audience, which they should at this point? This is the road to WrestleMania. Roman and Rock are huge parts of this. This is a stadium show, in a market that I'm sure WWE would like to return to and build a relationship with. Rock, get the fuck on the plane and go to Perth, bring your vest and all that and come out there. Roman too. Get your ass out there and set it up and do something. Give us that moment. I think that's likely, but I feel like they wouldn't put this segment on a pay-per-view. You know, if it was just going to be Cody and Seth flapping their gums, and then Theory and Waller mouth off, the baby faces beat the heels up and shake hands and celebrate like the Mega Powers. I just don't think they would put this on pay-per-view for that. That would be SmackDown, not a pay-per-view. So we're going to get something happening here, but there's really nothing to predict there. I just predict something cool is going to happen and something to set up WrestleMania stuff. Women's chamber match. We have Liv Morgan, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Tiffany Stratton, Becky Lynch, and Raquel Rodriguez. Winner will face Rhea Ripley, seemingly, or whoever the women's world champion is at WrestleMania. The story they've been telling for months is Becky and Rhea Ripley. They telegraphed the dog shit out of it. They had the two of them have a face-off at the WrestleMania kickoff in Vegas, and they've been teasing the shit out of it on TV for weeks and months. There's really no other match to do when you think of a WrestleMania stage, what it looks like on the marquee, and who the contender pool is right now for Rhea Ripley. You know, unless you did Bianca Belair, which is what I predicted, I think a year ago. I said it's going to be Bianca and Ripley at WrestleMania 40, and it feels like they're not going to do it yet. They're going to hold off. I said a year ago that would be our match, and it doesn't look like it's going to be our match unless Bianca wins here. But I feel like she's not. I feel like Becky Lynch is going to win because that's the story they're telling. Unless they do something where Bianca wins and then Becky worms her way in the way Charlotte wormed her way into that match with Ronda a couple of years ago, and they do a three-way or a triple threat. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping that's saved for the men, and we just get a straight victory here, and Becky Lynch wins. Now, if she does win, you know, you got to look at some of the names in there. The biggest name that you have to wonder who she's going to lose to or be pinned by is Bianca Belair. Everybody else, Tiffany, Raquel, Naomi, Liv, we're gonna see them take L's. It's not going to be crazy, but somebody's going to have to pin Bianca. I almost wonder if it's going to have to be Becky and Bianca as the final two, and Becky just beats her, you know, to get that ultimate momentum. Otherwise, I don't know what happens there unless Jade Cargill comes down to the ring and interferes in this thing and takes out Bianca, and that sets up their match, or maybe they have a confrontation backstage and Jade knocks her out or something and Bianca goes into the match less than 100%. I don't know. I feel like you got to protect Bianca in some way here unless it comes right down to Becky and Bianca. Then I think Bianca can easily take a loss to Becky there, and it's not going to damage her in any way. And I'm still hoping for a Bianca heel turn somewhere down the road. But at the end of the day, I'm picking Becky Lynch to win the Women's Elimination Chamber. That leaves us with the Men's Chamber. Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. Winner to face Seth Rollins or whoever the World Heavyweight Champion is at WrestleMania. Man, Sami Zayn did not get in. So I feel like at this point, the best thing to do is to have Drew McIntyre win. I said before that I didn't think, even though I love Drew McIntyre and the work he's doing, I agree with anybody that says he's been doing the best work of his career, because he is. I love his gimmick, his character. He's a killer, and that's what's awesome about him. So I agree with all of that. But they just did, McIntyre and Rollins, and they had the big match at the beginning of the year where Rollins beat him. But one thing I wasn't thinking about was the Sami Zayn stuff, and I was thinking that Sami would try to find his way into the chamber and win the chamber to get the shot against Seth. Instead, it sounds like there is an option for a triple threat. So if you're going to do a triple threat now, then Drew and Rollins is fine because you're adding another element to it. So I'm going to pick Drew McIntyre to win the Elimination Chamber. He's going to face Seth Rollins, and then something is going to happen on Raw or on TV that's going to get Sami Zayn into the match, the World Heavyweight title match at WrestleMania. I don't know how they're going to get there, because anything that they do now would feel like it might be a charitable donation to Sami, like they're just going to give him some special opportunity. Something's got to happen on TV. It's almost going to have to be like McIntyre's own ego is going to get the best of him, where he's going to do something stupid like offer up his shot at the title or a shot at the title, or if you beat me tonight, that might be what it is. They just might do a rematch on Raw between McIntyre and Sammy. And if you beat me, you can be added to the match, and then Sammy beats him. And I really want to have Sami Zayn, have his moment at WrestleMania. I think that would be awesome. You think about Eddie and Benoit at WrestleMania 20. What if it was like Cody and Sammy doing something like that? And in the ring with Cody and Sammy, you had Jey Uso and Kevin Owens and whoever else is super over as a babyface right now or might be affiliated with these guys. Becky Lynch would be another one. Becky and, Sammy, I think, are friends and whatnot. And even Seth Rollins, but Rollins is seemingly going to lose his title that night. I think that would be a lot of fun having something like that happen, but you can't ever forget about Damian Priest. He is senior Money in the Bank, and they could give Sammy his WrestleMania moment and then take it away from him. And we've had that happen to us as fans. Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam that year when Triple H fucked him over, and we've had some heartbreaking cash-ins to where you think you're getting a great moment and then it's taken away from you. It might be time to give the fans one of those heartbreaking moments again and really kind of balance out our emotions, with some heartache and anger with what happened to Sammy, but then, being overjoyed on night 2 when Cody has his moment, and then Sammy can still compete for the title that he got screwed over on, and maybe he can beat Damian Priest for the title at SummerSlam, and that can be where Sami Zayn has his moment, gets fucked over at Mania, but redeems himself at SummerSlam and tells his own story. I would love to see that. So I'm predicting that Drew McIntyre will win the Chamber. He will then challenge Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and then they can have Sami Zayn get entered into the match somehow. And then Sami Zayn can beat Drew McIntyre in the match to win the title, protecting Seth. He now loses his title without being pinned. Out comes Damian Priest, cashes in. That would be a dream scenario for me for WrestleMania, because that would be the ultimate heartbreak for Sammy, and he could tell a great story to SummerSlam using that. And I think that would be fun. And what better way to have Sami Zayn win the title, from Damian Priest than to be in the main event of a pay-per-view. CM Punk can play a role in this too. Let's say Drew McIntyre, he's a victim in this too. Damian Priest now wins the championship, and then maybe McIntyre challenges Priest at Backlash or something, and then by then CM Punk is healthy, and Punk costs McIntyre his title match, and now you got McIntyre and Punk for SummerSlam. No title on the line. It's just McIntyre and Punk, and then Priest and Sami Zayn. That would be great. I'd be fine with that. So if they're setting that up, maybe that starts happening at the Chamber with McIntyre winning, which is who I predict. So just to recap, Rhea Ripley to retain over Nia Jax, Priest and Balor to retain over Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, Becky Lynch winning the Women's Chamber, and Drew McIntyre winning the Men's Chamber. What do y'all think? Daniel Mendola, good to see you, man. Thanks for the $2. Just had surgery, but I'll try to be here for the Chamber. Right on, man. Hope you're doing well. Best of luck in your recovery. And yeah, hope you can stay up late. You're on my time, though, I think, right? So you can probably do it. You can hang. I've seen you hang. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back up. The Juliet is gifted out another, Good Micro Commentaries membership, hooking up Lee T with one. Thank you so much for that. Good to see Max Pokebra and Paul Carpenter and Shell Shock in here as well. Just scrolling up to see if there's anything else I missed. No, there's not. Okay, good. So I'll just go back down here and see if there's any other questions I can answer. Ryan Adams says, Greg, I think we're getting Tiffany versus Bianca at Mania. They've been going at each other on the mic every time they interact. That's true. Tiffany and Bianca would be great. That would be a nice match to have, because as of right now, there would be no title on the line for that. So having just a one-on-one women's match at WrestleMania with no belt on the line, have we had that before? You guys are going to have to help me out with that. And that's something that we see too in AEW a lot, that, it seems like any women's matches we do see, are kind of centered around the title, and there's not too many other separate issues. And WWE has had that issue before too, where you never really see, especially in the previous regime, storylines or angles between two women, an actual feud that will take you to pay-per-view that doesn't have anything to do with the championship or one of the championships. So I would love that. That's a wonderful idea. Yeah, you got Daniel Clark brings up Saudi Arabia. That's another good point. I feel like Rock and Roman Reigns could happen at Saudi Arabia. And one of these championship matches for Sami Zayn could happen there too. You know, I mentioned SummerSlam being the moment for Sami Zayn. Maybe it's Saudi Arabia. You know, he had quite the moment there last time he was there. So for him to win the title there in the main event might be the better place than SummerSlam, to be honest. But I still have an inner struggle, you know, when it comes to that Saudi Arabia relationship. I think we all do, but what the fuck can we do about it, you know? But yeah, that would be quite the moment, and it would be special for him. And that's kind of what it's all about, because Sami Zayn's, you know, on the top tippity top of my list of favorite fucking dudes in the wrestling biz right now. So thank you so much for being here. I want to apologize for kind of rushing through this one, but I realized that I had about 30 minutes less time than I thought I did for this podcast. So we kind of came up a little bit early to allow us enough time to discuss all of this. And we kind of had to fire through it, but it's going to be a fun weekend. We're going to be here watching Elimination Chamber late night. I will probably return later on Saturday for a quick recap. We won't stick around for one at the end of the show because I will probably be tired, but I'll show back up later. On Saturday, we'll do a quick little recap of the show, and I'll give you some opinions on that. And then, of course, on Sunday, we're going to be watching WrestleMania 8. So the links to this stuff is up on my channel already. I want to thank you very, very much for joining us on this Thursday afternoon at a very weird time of the week, but we had to predict this show before tomorrow, and this was pretty much my only time to do it. So thank you so much for being here. Love y'all very much, and I will catch you very soon for Elimination Chamber React.